If you're on the spiritual path, this is really important for you. As spiritual beings, we're always putting energy out into the universe. And so is every other sentient being on this earth plane and multidimensionally. And what happens is we have this collective vibration. And we have a collective vibrational frequency. And it all accumulates. Let's call it a cloud of accumulation. Let's say this vibrational frequency over here holds a vibration of fear and lack. There's never enough in the world. I'll starve tomorrow. I'm afraid. That fear energy is a collective energy, and it is being fed by more fear, more feelings of fear, more thoughts of fear, more energy of lack and fear. So it grows. And the moment that we go into that fear within, that energy hooks to ours and it starts feeding back and forth, right? So it's called entanglement. We are all in this together because in the oneness energy, now most of us understand that oneness is the vibrational frequency of our soul self and beyond. So that is the universal understanding beyond the dualistic energy. Once we go beyond dualistic energy, there is the oneness. So that oneness frequency is also works on the dual plane of the earth plane. So the dualistic plane of good and bad, up and down, love, hate, right? That dualistic energy is also under the energy of oneness. So how does oneness work with duality? Because they're it's like being whole, but separate. And how that works is that we are all working to experience this world. All of our consciousnesses are all working together, whether we realize it or not. We don't have to be awake to realize that all of our consciousnesses are all working together. So the very highly ascended being who's living on the earth plane, who meditates love and grace consistently, they are feeding the same energy system as the person who's in hate and anger, because we're all in this together. But what happens is also that we have these energy globs or clouds, to be call it a little nicer word. We have these energy clouds, and these energy clouds accumulate the same frequency. So if I'm afraid of dying of cancer, I'm going to feed into the frequency of fear of the C word or cancer. And that energy, that collective vibrational frequency of fear of cancer is then going to feed me at the same time. So it becomes a very symbiotic relationship where we're working together. I give it more energy and it gives me more energy, and we're feeding it. So here's thousands of people all feeding this fear of the cancer. And then that all of that energy accumulates, all those thoughts and feelings accumulate, and they become very strong and powerful. And the more it gets fed, the more powerful it is. So the moment I move into fear of that, it hooks me pretty quickly. And then I'm hooked, and then it starts feeding. And then I go, okay, I'm going to do something to shift my vibration. And then something else comes up and I get hooked again. So we're always being hooked in a vibrational frequency. It's not like some frequencies aren't working as well, or some are. Some vibrational thoughts and feelings are stronger than others. Yes, Why? Because it's being fed more. But they're all out there. Now, the question is, what are you feeding? If you're feeding fear and anger, then you are in that same space as the fear and anger, and you are giving energy to that. And then that energy is also feeding others. So you're responsible in a way of feeding other people's fear. And let's just talk about the media, because if we're talking about fear, we've got to talk about the media, right? So what does the media want to do? It wants to make you fearful, because what do you do? What happens when you're in fear is it hits the R complex, that brainstem. And that brainstem is all about fight, flight, freeze, hide, and survival. So if I am afraid of being, and I feel unsafe, and I want to survive, and somehow the TV set tells me that if I have an amazing new red car, I'll be safe because people will love me, and I'll be cool, and I won't have anything to worry about. So guess what? Now I'm going to go buy that red car and feel safer, right? So fear is a great way to control us. We can be very easily controlled through fear because it hits our R complex, which makes it, and that when you hit that R complex, it's all about survival and feeling safe. We have no conscious awareness, and that's really important to understand. 99.9% of the time, we have no conscious awareness that that part of our brain is being triggered. Why? Because it is an instinctual part of our brain. It isn't the ones that, it doesn't have a thought to it, and it doesn't have a feeling attached to it. It has an instinctual fight, flight, freeze, hide, or safety, survival, which is all the same energy vibration. So basically, if you are in fear, you are going to look for ways to feel safe. So if the media is feeding you fear, then you are more likely to buy into what they say is safe. And that is now the commercial that comes on. Oh, you'll be safe if you have this security system or the newest iPhone or whatever it is. So very, very important that you understand that you are being duped by society. Fear is a way to control you. And look, religions have been doing it for centuries. That's how political parties of all all nations, all countries work. Fear. So, what are you feeding? Are you feeding the fear, or are you feeding the love? Now, it's not always easy to feed the vibrational frequency of love, because we have a lot of other things that bombard us, right? Fears, dog gets sick, your car breaks down. All these things happen in our lives. And then we hit that fear component, and then we draw in more energy from the fear vibrational frequency. And then we have the love frequency. That is the oneness. And that is also available to us. And as spiritual beings, we are ready to hook in and connect to more of the wholeness and the love frequency. And the best way to really do that is meditation and inner soul work, meaning get deep in there and transcend some of your own fears that are hitting that that are actually stored in your cellular memory. So, are you feeding fear? Are you feeding love? And those are the questions you need to ask yourself, because as you feed that fear, it feeds you back. And then all of a sudden, it becomes a vibrational match for you. And then you have fearful things happen in your life, or you get caught up in something that is fear-based. You are a highly advanced being, because highly advanced being, they are the ones who want to transcend this fear. They recognize that fear is only the illusion on the earth plane when you're still looking at dual energy, the duality. Once you hit the oneness frequency, then the duality is no longer there and fear is no longer an option. But hey, we did have things to fear when there were predators everywhere. And yes, the media wants you to think that there's a predator standing outside of your door. And maybe there is today, but tomorrow there may not be. So are you feeding into that and it's being attracted to you because you're believing that you should be fearful of the big bad wolf that's out there? Or are you going to take back your power and start working in the frequency of love and caring about other people, not just yourself and your own fears, but actually giving back in some way, helping other people through their transitions, being a healer, or who knows how you help others. Doesn't matter. Are you living in fear or are you living in love? I just want to end with this. The frequency of love is the frequency of oneness and wholeness. And when you live in the pure understanding that there's only wholeness and love, and that the dualistic energy, and that the dualistic energy is really an illusion and just here on the earth plane, then you can transcend that and be more connected with the wholeness of yourself and the oneness energy, and you can hold the frequency, and in that way you actually help other people transcend and ascend. Much love.